The golden age is coming. This started in 2012, and this 20-year period is the preparation. And as we get to 2032, we have raised our vibration collectively enough as humanity and as a planet and as a universe to be able to enter the next phase of our evolution. In the last 2 weeks, we've had massive planetary shifts. What's happening as we're raising our vibration is more and more people are kind of awakening to their own sixth sense, inner sense, intuition. What we're moving towards is oneness. When we see some things looking worse, this is where we say the darkest hour is often before the dawn, and the dawn is coming. The dawn of the golden age is 2032. As we raise into 5D, we don't need that grounding level that we had before. They're just talking to me now. They're saying, they said at the time that I was going to be here until I was 67, and then if I achieved everything that I was meant to achieve and clear everything you've got, when you're coming into the last life or two or three, you've really stopped sort of learning. It's more about clearing. It's all the karma from all the previous lifetimes has kind of caught up with you, if you like, and you've got to clear all of that before you go. So my kind of job in this lifetime was to clear a lot of my own karma, a lot of ancestral karma, and to raise my vibration purely up into the heart from a heart-centered place. And so the main lesson, if you like, for this lifetime was to increase my forgiveness, which is a very high vibration, that you just allow everything to be what it is without any kind of judgment about it. And so with all of these lessons, if we liken it to at school, and you start when you're little, learning 1 + 1 is 2, and then sort of 10 years on you're learning calculus, and then 10 years on if you go to university and you're doing mathematics, you're learning stuff at a very high level. So this it's still maths, but it's a different level, right? So it's the same with us when we're learning to open our heart and release judgment. We start with a little lesson, like, what can I forgive? Or somebody's stolen my pencil and I'm upset. And can I forgive that? And then we move it up into bigger stuff. So in this lifetime, I had some big stuff that I had to come to terms with and forgive, and then move through that and realize the other side of that is a strange phenomenon where you realize there's nothing to forgive, because it is what it is. And that kind of peace that comes with that is part of that being able to move to the next level. So they'd said, for me to complete everything, 67 years was the plan. And so I was 21 at the time, and that seemed a very long way off. And more recently, when I was about 55, I suppose, when I was writing my book, Moving Past the Past, about releasing trauma and coming to terms with your empowerment, releasing the victim mentality. And through that understanding, as I was writing that book to help others of what I'd been through and the place that I'd got to, I realized that there's something called the ACE study, which is adverse childhood effects, and the impact on health in the adults. And this is a long-term study over about 30 years. It's a huge study. It's recognized worldwide. And I was referring to that study in my book, and it was saying you'll have a score for each kind of trauma in childhood, okay? 1 point for each thing. If your parents were divorced, somebody went to prison, there was an alcoholic, there was abuse, you get a different point. And so it goes up to 10. And my score was 8. And so it was saying that everybody over 5, a score of 5, has got some serious drama and trauma going on in the body, and the longevity of their life is cut short. So I can't recall now, because this is 10 years, 7, 8 years ago. But as I was looking at that, I was getting some aha moments, thinking, oh, okay, so there's very high figures for death from cancer and all sorts of different things, because the trauma in the body is toxic. And so it manifests into the health physically. There's also far, far higher, we're talking 80-90% higher levels of lots of different health problems. And so I kind of went, oh, okay, right, all right. So is this why I'm going at 67? rather than 80s or 90s or whatever, because I've held all of that. And they went, no, no, you cleared that. I did all of that healing around about 40, was 37, 38, 40. I released all this trauma out of my body using a variety of different tools. And, I've helped other people like the emotion code, transformational stuff, hypnotherapy, Reiki, just, really going into all those traumas and energetically and psychologically releasing all of those. And so my spiritual team said to me, you've released the trauma and your body has reset. So you could potentially live now well into your 90s, and this will be a choice for you. You have to be here till you're 67. That's the contract, if you like. Okay. Then after 67, it's up to you. You can stay or you can go. You have the freedom. And I've chosen to stay. So I'm loving life now. I'm really blessed. I'm living the dream. And I'm perfectly happy to be here into old age. So coming back to your question, what happens when I finally finish? If there's anything to be finished off that I haven't completed, then I would come back again. And that's okay. This lifetime, that they told me I had 3 left, and I'd said I wanted to do the 3 in one. I don't want to come back 3 more times. Let's just chuck it all into one. And they'd said to me during that meeting, it's too much. It's too hard. There's too much stuff to clear. It will be too overwhelming for you. So basically, I took it on, but I'll only know when I get to the other side. Did I clear all of it, and am I done now, or do I need to come back? And it might be coming back for what we might consider to be half a life or quarter of a life. So this is why somebody comes and they're only here for 10 years. They're only here for 20 years, and you think, why are they passed on and they're only 18? It's like they were just finishing off something, so they didn't need to be here for all that time. So that can happen. Not always, but that can happen. And it's one of the reasons why some people, leave this planet before we would consider their time. But on a soul level, it was their time. It was done. So they won't let me know until I get to the other side. It's about not kind of looking at the outcome. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? It's just, I am where I am, and I continue to evolve, and I continue to raise my vibration, and all of us are doing that. 2025, 2026 through to 2032, we're all in this heart-centered energy, and there's been massive shifts lately. But in terms of where I would go if I don't come back again, then there's many choices for all of us when we finished our lifetimes on this school of planet Earth. We will always continue to evolve and develop, but we go to a place that's a higher vibration. We've got as high as we can with Earth, and then we'll go somewhere else. So it's a choice, and it will be decided by the soul in conjunction with higher level guides. And it can be, so some of the choices would be you go to a different planet that is a higher vibration, a different dimension that's a higher vibration. You continue to live, if you like, your life there, more on an energetic rather than a humanoid form. You can also become a guide for somebody down here. And many, they're just talking to me now, they're saying, my guides are saying, many of us will continue to live lives in other dimensions, planets, and come back to Earth sometimes as well. But we know enough that we can help, you earthlings kind of thing. So you can kind of agree a contract to be a guide for somebody else. And you might be with them for one lifetime, you might be with them for half a dozen lifetimes, see them through something, and then that's helping you grow. So like my spiritual team, as I evolve, they're evolving. Because they're helping me grow, which helps them grow. And every time they have to help me through some kind of growth or challenge or situation, they're having to use their own resources to bring to bear. Like teachers get better over time as they have more experience. That's what our guides are. They're our teachers. But also life and living and people down here are our teachers as well, because everything is a mirror. Everything, especially relationships, can be our biggest challenges, our biggest joys, our biggest triggers, and they're there to help us to heal, release, grow, examine, explore. But curiosity is the name of the game. It really is. It's like, what's going to inspire the curiosity, the adventurous spirit within everybody at every level, including guides, including those beings of light that are on higher dimensions. They're really curious too. So curiosity is part of our energy, as well as love. We are love. We come from love. We go back to love. We're always growing and evolving in love. And so we kind of explore the different elements that can help that to grow. And equally, as we are evolving as people and as spirits and souls, the planets themselves in the universe are evolving and growing. So as we're ascending, so is Gaia, Mother Earth, so are the other planets. Planetary alignments are moving and shifting, and that changes the vibration in the cosmos, which changes our vibration. And then we have all these different dimensions, time, space dimensions, because there's only one now, and everything is coexisting within the same now, but on different time zones within different dimensions. And people find that a little difficult to wrap their head around sometimes, and I get it, okay. But it's saying, all right, well, let's just imagine on planet Earth in terms of our time zones. You're in Australia, aren't you? Right, we are talking right now, and right now it is 11:17 a.m. where I am, and where you are is probably 9 or 10 p.m. We're in different time zones, but we're still in the same now. So when we can kind of say, right, well, let's imagine then different dimensions in different time zones, but they're all in the same now. Does that,
Mm.
it, it starts to go a little bit, your head is,
Well,
because
it's a
we're
bit
so,
more, yeah, it's a bit more grounded than I've previously heard it. Yeah, no, that's helping. That's helping.
yeah, I mean, we're so used to the linear kind of the straight line of past and present and future. But if we kind of bring it into a circle and collapse it all into the now, and then say within that there are multiple dimensions. So an example would be years ago, I don't do it anymore, I've done it for 20 years, but I used to do what I call ghost busting. Okay. So I go into somebody's house, they're like, we've got a ghost, get rid of it, it's freaking us out, things, the chair rocks and things happen.
Did
And
you
I
have the
go in,
backpack and the vacuum sucker? Oh, damn it.
I go in
Sorry.
complete with crystals or something, and my spiritual team, and I would just connect in with that spirit, and I'd be able to see and talk to them. And, they would be very often quite angst, quite annoyed, quite angry, and when you talk to them, it's like they're in my house. And I'm like, yeah, they think you're in their house. It's like, this is my house. So what we've got is a crossover of two different time zones. So let's say, in this particular house, there's a family of four living, and it's the modern day. And there's another family of four living there from 100 years ago. And you've got a veil between the different time zones. So we talk about the veil between us and spirit, yeah? So you have a veil between us and different time zones. But in the now, we're all living in the same house at the same time. But through that veil, I'm not explaining this very well, when the veil is thin,
No, you're doing great.
you can sense what we would call a ghost or spirit in the house, in the room, and they can sense you. So they're as freaked out by you as you are by them. And they're like, what are these people doing in my house? So I have to explain to them that, they live here and it's a different year and it's okay. And what we're going to do, rather than exercise them out, it's I kind of re-put the veil in place so that you can't see each other. You get on with your time zone and you get on with yours. So we've got the past and the present colliding. But as long as those veils are in place, then we don't get that collision. It's on a different dimension, but the same space, but in a different time. Do you see what I mean? It's all a
I,
bit weird, I know, but this is going to become more and more clear
mm,
and more understood as we continue to raise our vibration, because more and more people will start to sense energies, vibrations. We all do it to a certain extent. You walk in a room where there's been an argument and you can say, go, you can cut the atmosphere in here with a knife. And it's like, right, you're sensing an atmosphere, and you wouldn't consider yourself to be psychic or intuitive, but you're sensing that it doesn't feel good in here, right? So everybody can do that to a certain extent. But what's happening as we're raising our vibration is more and more people are kind of awakening to their own sixth sense, inner sense, intuition, being able to sense more, not just when it's a really bad vibration, it feels horrible, but to be able to sense when it feels really lovely. I love going to that place. I always come out feeling uplifted and inspired, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it. I just love it. And that's lovely too. But that's going to continue going forward even more, that we start to know more about, I know when something's bothering you. Right now, we tend to have that with a close partner or a close family member. Yeah, I know when something's upset one of my kids, I can sense it. But usually that's because I know them really well and I know something's off, not necessarily because I'm psychic, but there's that inner knowing. So when we say, right, imagine that with a complete stranger, that you're in the space of a stranger and you can sense whether they're in a good space, a bad space, whether they're frightened, whether they're angry, whether you're safe and whether you need to get out of the way, or what is going on. So more of that is going to be happening. And the more we can accept that this is a gift, not a curse. Yeah, it's helping me to kind of suss things out. And if you think how helpful that would be, let's imagine at work, you sensed your boss is having a bad day. This is not a time to ask for a pay rise. It's like, right, okay, you could actually use this skill to help you in your day-to-day life, because spiritual consciousness, spiritual awareness isn't about being able to connect with spirit and, be in all love and light. It is that, but it's not just that. It's about being able to ground that into your earthly life. So when you drive your car, you get a sense of, be careful today, that something feels off. And so you're extra vigilant. And then some idiot rushes past you. And if you hadn't been paying attention, you might have clipped each other, So we start to use these insights. I use them all the time, as a professional intuitive, I use them all the time. For example, if I go shopping, food shopping, I talk to my body before I go and I say, what do we need this week? And then I go into the shop and it will guide me. I want lots of beetroot. That's purple, right? There's something in there that I need, some vitamin or mineral. And it's like, right, I need lots of fish this week. All right, I want particularly salmon. Right, okay, right. So my body will tell me, because it knows what's off, what's up, what's down, what levels need to come up. Now, this is something that's been happening for pregnant women for I don't know how long. Yeah. I remember my grandmother telling me she used to suck on a piece of coal when she was pregnant. And she said, I had no idea why I was doing this, but I just had to suck a piece of coal. And I can't remember what it is, but there's some research about there's something in coal that is, I don't know, it's iron or something, but the body knew it needed it. So pregnant women are more intuitive because they've got two souls in their body at the same time. Okay. But all of us are going to start to have more of a sense of that. So that can freak us out, or we can look at it as, how helpful will this be? I'll know when you're lying. I'll know when you're having a bad day. I'll know when. And it's just that extra knowing. And what is knowing? It's knowledge. And knowledge is power. So when I have that knowledge, it empowers me more. It helps me to make better choices or decisions. So I can then choose, is this a good time to speak to my boss about a pay rise or to leave it for another day? So we start to ground it into our day-to-day life. And it can enhance our personal relationships as well, with our significant other or our children, because of that intuitive insight of being able to sense. And we're moving into this space, which is well needed, of more and more open communication, rather than, how are you? I'm fine. It's like, are you fine? Are you really fine? How do you really feel? Being more open, being more genuine, being more vulnerable, being more exposed. Because, if you say, well, I'm not fine, I'm really struggling with my job. And I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to worry you. And that's what we do. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to worry you. So we withhold information out of protection for the other person. I was just protecting you. I didn't want you to worry, right? But we're withholding, and that puts a block between open communication and me being safe enough to show I'm vulnerable and be able to talk it through with you and feel supported and feel perhaps I get some guidance that I hadn't thought of. So, a beautiful relationship, whether it's us and our children or a family or a partner, is all about that real, authentic, I can tell you anything, you're going to listen, you accept me for who I am, you will support me in that. I feel supported and I want to do the same for you. That's what creates real intimacy and real closeness and a real partnership. But for so long, we haven't done that because I didn't want to worry you. I didn't want to tell you that because I didn't want you to freak out, or you might disagree with me, or you might tell me I can't, because a lot of relationships are based on control. No, you're not doing that. You're not going for that job. What? It's my life. It's my career. If I want to go for that job, that kind of old behavior is falling away and it's being challenged. And so those relationships that are like that, some of them are coming to the end. It's like, this is no longer working for me, for you to tell me what I can and can't do. And so those are breaking down because we're moving out of that energy of control, manipulation. It's falling away, and it's going to continue to fall away over the next 40, 50 years. I mean, it will continue for the next, however, how long, 300, 400 years. I mean, this is a gradual process of moving into allowing somebody to be who they are, accepting who they are, and not trying to mold people into who they are. Now, we do this with our children, and we will say, well, I'm teaching them values and right from wrong, and I'm molding them into their best version of themselves. And we do it from the place of love, of trying to help anybody to realize their potential and live their best life. But the way we parent is changing, and it has been changing for the last 100 years. We compare with Victorian children and the way we were then, and we compare it with where we are now, and that will continue to evolve. Well, we are changing our dynamic and relationship between us and everybody in our sphere. So all of that is raising as well. But the purpose of this rise is to increase the true trust, communication, openness, and support. And that comes from a place of acceptance and love and allowing.
Inspired souls, I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to the podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. Thank you so much for your incredible love and support. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please take a moment, hit that bell notification icon, hit that button, and join the movement, join the community, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. And to celebrate having recently reached 250,000 subscribers, we're giving away access to the community, inspiredevolution.com/circle. There's a link on the homepage on YouTube, but I'll put one in the comments below as well. You can join the community online platform, guests coming on every month to answer questions directly with the audience, weekly gatherings, satsangs, meditations, all sorts of good stuff, people chatting away. It's a phenomenal space online, even if I can say so myself. So join the community online, come meet us at Circle. I'll put a link here on screen, but also check it out in the description below. Join us. Back to the episode. There's that ties back into the forgiveness that you're working on in this life. Is there anything that is like unforgivable, like that you've come across?
No.
Okay. One of the pieces in there was also, it's quite profound, by the way. We're just moving right past it. But one of the pieces in there was, you were saying we're all evolving. We might evolve, and one of the strands that we could potentially end up on is becoming guides ourselves, or from the other side. And then guides are also evolving as we're evolving through their support of the people that they're evolving. I mean, there seems to be evolution present on every level. Is it all returning back to one source, or like, is it entropy? What do you see there, or what have you felt into there?
It returns back to source, but at a higher level. Because if we think about it, really from top down. All of this growth, what do we normally do, right? So we come from source, we evolve, we grow, we go back to source, we feed that evolution into source. So source grows, okay? So as we're growing more in love and in our heart, we're going back with a bigger basket to source and going, here you go, 1,000 years ago I came back with a little basket of love,
Is
and
my
now
bouquet of
in
experiences.
2025 I'm coming back with, a cornucopia basket of love, all right? But what does that do? Then source is expanding in love even more. So as we come from source, a higher level of love, a more profound love, then we find that we're evolving more. So this profound love continues to expand. Everything always expands. Everything. And so that includes us, that includes our DNA, which is shifting and expanding and evolving. And they're talking about new DNA strands and new genes and new this and that. Everything's always expanding. And so, if we look at, they're just giving me the example of, 400 years ago, the average height of a European was around about 4.5 foot. And the average height now is 5.5 to 6 feet. We've grown a foot, right? So, I live in the UK. We've got a lot of very old houses that, 1,000 years old, and little museums and things. And the doorways are tiny. You've got to, you stand in the room, and I'm 5'8", and the ceiling is, I have to stoop. I can't get in the room. That was the average height of the ceilings of like the European people, 1,000 years ago. Now we've evolved and got taller. So we're expanding, we're growing. And so, we look at the height of us in the West compared with Chinese and Asians. They're much shorter. It's like everybody's growing. So plants are growing, trees are growing, the planet is growing, we're growing. But we're not just growing in terms of height and DNA and expanding our physicality. We're expanding our heart, we're expanding our energy, our consciousness, our super consciousness, our higher mind. And that higher mind is what we would call our higher self or our intuition. Everything's expanding. So if we imagine, right, if that continued to expand, the higher self can talk to your higher self, my soul can talk to your soul, but at the moment it's only my human self that can physically speak to your human self, right? But as all of that expands, we start to collapse that into one. We're moving into oneness more and more, yeah? So the higher self, the soul, and the human are coming into one, which means now I can talk to your soul. I can talk to your higher self. I can talk to that deeper inner part of you, if you allow me. Okay, so we start to be able to read people and read energy and read light. Okay, we've always been able to read light. We've always been able to. All right, they're just showing me the example of Jesus. People flocked to be near him because he was so full of light. Yeah. So you just being in his presence expanded your own light. His light was shared, yes? And that's what we're aware of many of us on YouTube and podcasts and teachers, that we have a lot of light and our job is to share that light with others to help their light grow. And so I remember going to see a particular beautiful Indian guru, and I sat in her presence and I felt such a stillness and a calmness. She was 20 feet away from me, but I felt that energy. All right. And so did everybody else in the room. And I think that we have the same for those people that have been blessed to see some of the big teachers like Esther Hicks, or, people say, I've never seen Joe Dispenza or Tony Robbins, but they say the atmosphere is electric. Okay. So these people are just giving off such a beautiful light, and it inspires others. And that light, if we allow it, and I always do when I'm working, I allow my light to shine out and reach and hit as many people as it can. And so the feedback from my work, just from doing a tarot reading, will be that this really uplifted me. This lit me up. I felt so much better. It's like, right, okay. And it's not necessarily from the information that I've given in the reading. And often they will think it is, this helped me. The information I shared helped, right? Yes, that's a part of it. But perhaps what many people don't realize is just being in that light is what, if I just sat, I might try this actually. If I just sat, did a YouTube video and didn't speak for 10 minutes and just put that out, and I'm just in that energy, putting it out, would it inspire, lift? Would it calm? Would it reassure? And I think, well, they're saying it would. Okay. So it's not always about, we spend time with teachers, masters, gurus, and I don't consider myself any of those. I'm just me. But we spend time with people who perhaps know a little bit more than us, who perhaps have a stronger light and a stronger energy than us, and we can feed off it. And, I see it as my job, my joy, my purpose is to share the light and help people to absorb it and awaken. Because they don't need to suck the light out of me. When they see that light, it triggers their own light. When they see healing energy, it triggers their own healing energy within them. All right, all they got to do is be exposed to it, and then within them, their own light, their own power, their own healing starts to expand. And that's what we want. Yeah.
I remember on one of my sojourns into the jungle, touch wood, it wasn't a sojourn. There was a sound healer that was teaching us sound healing and experiences like this, and they got everybody to basically it's like a workshop. You closed your eyes and you had different people come through with different intentions, working through with certain sounds, and they would bathe you in their voice. And you had to guess what their intention was. And there was like 30 people going through this process. Yeah. And it was only 2 people got it wrong out of every time someone went past you. And it was really profound to be like, oh, that person's intention for me was freedom. This person's intention for me was healing. This person's intention for me was love. And you can feel it pouring off. And I think there's going to be more and more of this, right? You described the veil thinning. I mean, for yourself, for those that haven't tuned into past episodes, I'll link it somewhere up here. You obviously had quite the very interesting first half of your life as you described it in the last, but then you had the near death, you passed and then you came back. That's quite a sledgehammer approach in some ways. I don't know if I'm being sacrilegious when I say that or dismiss it, but quite a sledgehammer approach. But there is a shift that's happening right now, and you've referred to it before, 2012, 2032. Do you see the veil kind of thinning now and gradually, a bit more gracefully than the process you've gone through, more and more people are coming online? Is that
Yeah. Coming online is a beautiful expression. We're all coming online. Back in the day when mobile phones were first invented, cell phones, there was just a few handful of people that had these cell phones that could talk to somebody when they're out and about. The rest of us had a landline that plugged into the wall. And so, we were limited with communication. We could only communicate with somebody, go to a phone box or be at home. Now we can communicate. Everybody's got cell phones, and we can communicate with anybody, anywhere, at any time. So it's expanded. The communication has expanded, the opportunities, and through that, knowledge and awareness has expanded.
Sorry, can I interrupt for just 1 second? Sorry, I hate to interrupt. Is it such that our DNA and we're evolving, or the veil is thinning? Sorry, I just wanted to sort of ask that
all
part.
of it. So,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to ask that question in there.
No, it's fine. And I also wanted to just clarify this thing. I didn't die. I wasn't dead. Nobody can be dead for 3 days and come back. That's impossible. I believe I was in some form of coma. I was in some form of unconscious state for those 3 days that I was upstairs in the angelic realms. But I don't refer to it as a near death. Well, near death, I was near death, but I wasn't dead. I didn't pass. So I just wanted to clarify that because it's important. Integrity and clarity is key in this energy too.
Thank you.
Yeah. But what's happening is the veil is thinning, but it's been thinning. Okay, I'm just listening to them. It's been thinning significantly since 1982. I don't know why. Why 1982? They just gave me 1982. It's been thinning significantly since then. They're talking about some portal opening at that time that allowed in more light, and that allowed the light that came in, they're saying, allowed the veil to begin to thin. It was quite thick, it was quite fixed, and it started to thin. It won't dissolve completely. The veil is necessary in order to kind of allow the different growths at different times, the different evolutions at different times. Okay. However, what we're moving towards is oneness, right? People talk about, listen to the teachers who talk about oneness, that we are all one and everything is all one, right? And most of us have got a basic concept of that oneness, right? So if we can kind of take that concept of oneness and say, right, in spirit, let's say up there in the ethers, in the light, there's hundreds of millions of souls, and they can all see each other and connect with each other and know each other and communicate with each other without a voice, because they haven't got a body, but they can communicate telepathically, energetically. They are one within that energy. So bring it down to a human level, we have this separateness, right? You're there, I'm here, somebody else is over there. So the oneness allows the veil between you and you're separate to me to collapse, to say, we're both souls, we're both human, we're both part of humanity. We both have a heart and we both have needs. We both have. And we begin to see that humanity is humanity and it is one. And so the veil between the separation, the separateness of each person is collapsing a bit more. So we start to see the impact of injustice and lack in some where we weren't seeing it before. And we start to say, yeah, okay, all right, thanks. They're saying, tell them about that. I was watching the other day on television the Live Aid at 40 reunion. Now, I was there. You were too young. I was there at that time for the Band Aid Christmas single, for the Band Aid concert. You know, I remember watching it live along with I don't know how many billion people. And I watched that and it was so lovely. It was so uplifting. It was so amazing. But for the first time ever in history, they connected up hundreds or dozens of different satellites. And so there was like 100 countries watching it once. This had never been done before. And that was sort of pushing through this technology that allowed us to come together as a people. And the one thing that Bob Geldof kept repeatedly saying is, I cannot deal with the fact that there is famine in a world where there's so much plenty and waste. We've got massive food mountains going to waste and we've got people starving. We just need to redistribute. We just need to share. And so that's the sort of oneness that I'm talking about, that we're moving towards. And it began in the early 80s. Band-Aid was 85, but they're saying this portal opened in 82. And it was the beginning of this awareness of other people's suffering, other people's struggle, and then wanting to get involved and saying, look, they're not separate to us. They might be in a different continent and a different thing, but they're people, they're humanity, and we need to help. And so it's that, we're talking there about charity and giving and supporting, but take it further and say, let's imagine that we can all really feel into everybody else's energy and automatically share. Automatically we are one. That's what we're moving towards. Now that might take another 400 years, 500 years, but it's started. And it started, well, they're saying in 82, this shift forward about this particular thing about let's move into oneness. Okay. And it's one of the things they're saying as well. Anybody who experiences either a very high level meditation and very often through substances like ayahuasca, I never can say that word, but whenever people that have experienced that, and I haven't, they will describe this absolute sense of oneness with the universe, this incredible bliss and connection, and that everything is one. Now, I get that from meditating, I get that from just connecting, but not everybody can. So they, will use whatever they use to get there. But that's what we're moving towards, is this oneness. And so in order to get there, we need to start dissolving these very fixed veils between me and you, and let's open it up. Let's my energy connect with your energy. But we don't. We have this separation. I don't want to be contaminated by you. I don't want to infiltrate you. Like, my energy is mine. And, I've been doing this a long time, since the 80s. And, I was taught how to protect my energy and put a bubble around my energy, and like imagine a shell around my energy, like an eggshell, protecting my energy. And they're talking about this now. This is the first time I've had this conversation, by the way, so I didn't know about this. They're just saying that whole dynamic of protecting your energy from others, that needs to go. That needs to fall away. Okay, that for us to be able to read somebody else, feel somebody else, sense somebody else, we need to drop that armor. We don't need the armor. We only need the armor when we're not safe, but we are safe. So let's drop the
because
armor.
protection has that seed of fear at the heart of
Yes.
it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, instead we can just say, right, okay, I can sense if somebody else's energy is coming into me, particularly in my belly, all right, we'll sense it there, and something will feel off. Then you just go into that energy and release it, because it isn't yours, and it can just come away. So rather than all the protection, which has always been the way that, I've taught other people as well. It's like, if you're getting involved in the spiritual connections with guides and angels and spirit and souls and stuff, then make sure you protect your own energy. But they're saying, in terms of moving towards the oneness, that whole separateness needs to go. Okay, so it's more of an intention, they're saying, of okay, it's more in order to protect yourself, say, from somebody else's negativity. It's just an intention that that's your space, and I'm giving you love and light, but that bad space you're in is not going to affect me in any way, because I am love and light. And so it's just the intention is enough, rather than this teaching of the armor. We don't need that anymore. We're all one.
This podcast is brought to you by my one-to-one mentorship. The podcast is designed to inspire your evolution onwards, upwards, and inwards. And if you're ready to dive in even deeper and evolve your career, your leadership, and business in a conscious direction, and you believe that alignment to your purpose and your soul's direction is the only way to truly thrive into your highest potential, and right now you can feel that guidance, mentoring, and coaching would be of support, then my one-to-one mentorship, coupled with our incredible conscious group masterminds, is here for you. Thousands of people have evolved through my mentoring over the last 10 years. It is, after all, my highest calling, and here's what they have to say about how it's transformed their life.
It's a blend of what I would call hustle and magic.
I really felt like a brother who I could reach out to when I was in need.
Suddenly things take least effort and I see multiple opportunities.
He's not sugarcoating, he's not looking at things with rosy glasses. He asks the hard questions which we need to have asked.
He made me feel like there's someone who believes in me. That connection is much more profound than just being coached.
If you truly believe in the potential that you have as a human being, you would definitely invest in coaching.
So if you're ready to dive in even deeper to take your inspirations and truly evolve, then make your way over to my website at amritsandu.com. I'll put a link in the description below. You don't have to go it alone. There's one-to-one mentoring and an incredible community mastermind of conscious leaders, entrepreneurs, and people transforming their careers and business into full alignment with their soul's highest calling, creating a life that inspires them on the deepest level, living into their greatest impact. And as many of you know, connection is my highest value, so I'm looking forward to connecting with you. Use the button below, use the link below, amritsandu.com/call. That's AMRIT Sandu, SANDHU.com/call. It's on screen for you now. And if you follow that link, you'll be able to book in a call directly with me. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. So go on, I'll see you there. There's this Buddhist practice when I first came across, I really didn't like. It's have you heard of Tonglen? It's so normally when you do a meditation, you sit there and you breathe in love and you let go your stress. So you breathe in the light and you let go your stress, all the ease and let go your stress. And Tonglen is like this typical, very Buddhist practice, which is like, okay, breathe in all the suffering of the world and breathe out love. Breathe in all the suffering of the world and breathe out light. And the recognition of actually you are the vessel through which all the shadows transmute and actually you're incorruptible and you're impermeable. But like noticing the fear patterns that come up at your edges as that sort of, as you start to step into that work is extremely profound. And then, yeah, they now, well, the first time I came across it was like the Tibetan sort of death and dying sort of rituals and that sort of work. They're encouraging you to like interface with your fears in a really deep way. But yeah, there is really just this, people do have a lot of fears at boundaries. Like boundaries and fears are very synonymous. And yeah, I guess there's a question about like practically how to soften our fears from those. Like I can understand that the time is shifting and that actually protection is no longer necessary and learning to, but when people are in their day to day, what do you recommend they actually do in a practical sense to sort of try and work through that?
We
Any
want to
advice
try
are
and
they pulling?
simplify it. So we tend to overcomplicate things and we create rituals, and it's the ritual that makes us feel safe. And none of that is necessary. The intention alone is enough. But the easiest way to deal with anything at all is to say, what would love say? What would love do? It is the easiest, the most simple thing, because as soon as you come into that energy, what would love say? What would love do? Immediately you're not in fear. You cannot be in two energies at the same time. And so there are only two energies, okay, literally. Out of, we can delineate, I think, 280 different emotions. We can, we can break it all down like that. But basically, there's two. There's love and there's fear, okay? And actually, there's one. There's love and an absence of love. Okay, so that's all there is. So everything, when we look at, say, the emotions, 280 emotions, when you study like the emotion code, it'll list all these emotions and you kind of dig into them, right? And that's helpful. But it's saying, I can't be in fear if I'm in love. And I can't be in love if I'm in fear. So I choose. Which one am I choosing? Okay. So immediately that I choose, I am shifting my consciousness and my energy into that frequency. So if I'm feeling fear, and we might call that anxious, angst, angry, frustrated, resentful. They're all fear-based emotions, okay? If I'm feeling panicked, if I'm feeling upset, they're all fear-based emotions, right? All fear-based emotions, all of them, make you feel bad. So they're really easy, right, to figure out, right? Because people have said to me, well, so how do I know? I'm like, does it make you feel bad or does it make you feel good? Okay. If it makes you feel bad, it's a fear-based emotion. If it makes you feel good, it's a love-based emotion. So when we think of the opposite then of the love-based emotions, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, understanding, gentleness, listening, there's loads of them, okay? One makes you feel bad, one makes you feel good. So when we're looking at how can I transmute, I start to feel fear, I just come into, is it making me feel bad? Yes. Do I need to name it? Sometimes the answer might be yes, you need to name it. What are you feeling? So that you can really deal with it. You name it, you own it. This isn't blame and shame. This is awareness, all right? Oh, I'm feeling resentful. Oh, what's that about? Why am I feeling resentful? What would love say? What would love do? And immediately that you say that, you come over from the resentment into a love energy, which was the opposite of resentment. It's understanding. It's let's talk about it. Let's figure it out together. Let's support. What would love say? What would love do? Yeah. Now, it doesn't always work to get the other person out of that space. And that's the thing. We've got this outcome, expectation. If I'm going to be really loving with you, it's to help you and you're going to feel better. And that's the intention from a place of love. I want to make you feel better. I want to help you feel better. And that's lovely. But we need to let go of the expectation and the outcome because it's not my energy. I can't make you feel better. You can make you feel better from what I'm giving you, but I can't make you feel better. So I'm just giving it because it feels right to give it. But that person might still be in a really bad mood, even though I'm giving them all this love. All right. But if I'm not attached to the outcome, it doesn't matter. I've done what I can and I let go. So whatever you're feeling, is it making me feel good? Is it making me feel bad? If it's bad, right, what would love say? What would love do? And then you're in that energy. And it's transmuted immediately. Immediately.
We're recording this now. It's July 2025. Your readings are well loved online. Have you felt into the collective energy right now where we're headed? Because last time you came on, you really helped us identify 2012, 2032. There's a lot happening for us as a collective. You called 2025 the year of the light. How are we going through this process at the moment, and any updates?
Yeah, it's going really, really well. I mean, we're in the second half of the year now of 2025. So just in the last 2 weeks, we've had massive planetary shifts. And as you know, I'm not an astrologer, but I follow certain people. Yeah, we've just had Uranus literally on Tuesday, 2 days ago, just moving signs into Gemini and sort of cracking all sorts of things open in terms of communication. And yeah, there's the shifts are continuing to happen. So if we think about it, can I have an example, please? Okay, thank you. All right, now I don't do stocks and shares and things. I don't understand things like that. But what they're showing me is a little bit. I remember watching something where they talked about interest accumulating. It's like the first, like I say, a long-term investment, and you put £10 a month in it, and for the first 10 years you really don't see much at all, and then all of a sudden there's this cumulative effect where it starts to go up almost vertically just in the last 10 years or something. Say a 30-year investment, the first 20 years it is adding to it, adding to it, adding to it. And then all of a sudden, there's this kind of explosion where it moves almost vertically. The investment literally is doubling overnight and doubling overnight and doubling overnight. Okay, I think something to do with cumulative, right? So basically, that's the example they give me. So they're saying, imagine us then from 2012 to 2032, that we've been putting in and putting in and putting in the love and the light, and that I'm ready for more, and I'm ready for my best life, and I'm ready to connect to my higher self, and the planet is shifting and humanity is shifting. Over those years, it hasn't seen much return on the investment, if you like, all right? That's what it looks like. But see it as a longer term investment where it's really the last 10 years. Like with a mortgage, you pay, you pay, you pay. 20 years on, it's hardly come down at all. But in the last 10 years, then suddenly it's whoosh, it's all done. So they're saying it's a similar thing with this. So this started in 2012. We are now 3/4 of the way at 2025 to 2032. We've only got 7 years left out of this 20-year period. So we're more than 2/3, if you like, of the way. Now we're starting to see that interest coming in. Now we're starting to see the work that has been done from 2012 till now starting to really ramp up. So between 2025 and 2032, this is when kind of the mortgage is being paid off. All right. This is when it all is happening, if that makes sense. Okay. So we're starting to really feel the upward trajectory of the energy. We're feeling this uplift. And so when we have this uplift, what it does is it brings in more light and more awareness and more knowledge. And so that then exposes more of the opposite, more of the limits and the control and the fears and the power hungry and all the rest of it. So it looks like on the surface, particularly in certain countries, that there's extra chaos and extra bad and extra this and extra that, and people are justifiably frightened. It's I've many people say to me, what is going on in my country? And I'm like, I know. Okay, this is where you just hold your stillness. What would love say? What would love do? Everything that is not love, this is the bit I want you to really hear. Everything that is not love will be falling away. It will fall away. Everything that is not love will fall away. So when you see and witness stuff that is not love, control, power, anger, craziness, chaos, rah, 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 just know this is falling away. I trust that this is falling away. It is not for me to dictate the time scale on that. I want this done this year. I want this stopped by, next year. That this can't go on. This shouldn't be happening. All of that resistance is fear. Fear is resistance. Okay. So that's just adding more fuel to the fire when we want to put the fire out. acceptance is what puts the fire out. And accepting what is, even though you don't like it, is a high vibrational stuff. It's high vibrational awareness. It's enlightenment. It's, I don't try and change anything, force anything. I allow what is to be what is. And I trust the process. And I trust my heart, my sense of love, and many others' heart and love that is all raising and all rising. And I trust that all that is not love is falling away. And it doesn't just get to a certain date and then it all dissolves. It's gradually falling away. So just trust the process. By the time we get to 2032, we will not be what people would consider to be in a golden age. You know, there'll still be chaos, there'll still be wars, there'll still be stuff that's not right, there'll still be stuff that's not love. But we will have entered the beginnings of this is the new normal, that we're moving more and more into that space. And that process can take another few hundred years. Okay, it's constantly evolving. And so the golden age is coming, and we've been preparing for it. This 20-year period is the preparation. And as we get to 2032, we have raised our vibration collectively enough as humanity and as a planet and as a universe to be able to enter the next phase of our evolution. After many thousands of years being in this space, now we're ready to go into that space. But we had to have this preparation. And that preparation has actually been going on for a couple of hundred years, but it's really ramped up since 2012.
Some people tuning in are going to find it really hard to accept what's going on a global scale and event. It's like, yeah, some people are, I can already hear the comment section going, how am I meant to accept what's going on in the world right now?
Now, this is part of my experiences as a child and a young adult of all the horrible, terrible things that I went through. How could I get from that to a place of I accept what happened to me and I'm okay with it? I accept something that was really horrible and I'm okay with it, right? So I had to learn that for myself in order that here we are, 30, 40 years later, that I'm teaching and helping other people to be okay with what is, even when it's not okay. All right. So we're not saying the bad stuff is okay. We're saying I'm okay with it being as it is because it is what it is and I accept it. So acceptance is the key. So for me to be able to teach what I teach and uplift and try and help people to be okay with, that's not working and that should be better. And, it's like, right, yes, acknowledge it. Acknowledge that we want to raise that. We want to improve that. But whilst we're improving it, accept what is without judgment. Can we remove the judgment? It's the judgment that's the killer of the light. It really is. And we all judge, me too, but be aware of it and say, this is something I'm working on. I'm a work in progress. I recognize when I'm judging something and then I pull back and say, what would love say? Because one of your questions earlier about forgiveness is anything unforgivable? And I said, no, because, and I'm not God, and I don't even think I am, but that God's self within me knows that source judges nothing. Source, God, judges nothing. There is nothing to God that is unforgivable. Nothing. All right. So like in the Catholic faith, and I'm not a Catholic, and I don't actually agree with religion, period, because of the dogma and the rules and control. But the point here is that with the Catholics, you can go to a priest and confess your sins and the priest forgives you on behalf of God, kind of thing, right? No matter what it is, right? So there are so many teachings, and Jesus taught it as well. There is nothing that is unforgivable, nothing. So every action comes from a place of, every action that's painful comes from a place of pain. And so can we forgive the pain? Can we forgive the actions? It's hard stuff. It's high level forgiveness. But when we realize that there is nothing that's unforgivable, but yes, we judge. I look at the news. I don't watch it very often, but, it'll pop up and I'll see some headline on YouTube about what Trump's doing now or what Putin's doing or what was doing. And my first human response is to judge, idiot, oh God, that's a human response. And then I grab hold of it as soon as I can and say, what would love say? And love would say, he's here for a purpose. There is something here that maybe I'm not aware of, but it will work itself out. I trust the process and it's going to be okay. And he's not going to be here forever. It's a 4-year term. Time is linear, and I will just come back into awareness that I'm in judgment and then trying to neutralize it from a place of love. And that's how each of us can live a better life, a happier life. Because I've had people say to me, I want to leave my country and move elsewhere because I can't stand the politics here. I'm like, right, you're giving these politics such a lot of power over you, your life, your home, your work. You're prepared to leave the country rather than put up with it when this political thing is temporary. And if we could just see it as temporary, you'll be gone in a few years. There'll be somebody else in and they'll be doing something else. So don't worry about it. Just get on with your life. Just focus on you. And if you're choosing to relocate out of love, great, crack on. But don't do it out of fear. Don't do it out of resistance. This is to try and help people come into an acceptance and reassure this is not forever. And when we see some things sometimes looking worse, this is where we say the darkest hour is often before the storm, before the dawn, and it's going to clear. The dawn is going to clear, and the dawn is coming. The dawn of the golden age is 2032. We've been talking about it for the last 40, 50 years, and it's round the corner. So, when you find yourself judging your country, your politics, fears, what you're seeing, what you're witnessing as that's not okay, I completely agree, it's not okay. But can we say, but it is what it is, and I'm just going to put love into that situation, and I'm going to trust that I'm going to do everything I can in my power, and that might be that I send some money, or I send some energy, or I arrange a group meditation for lots of us to send love into it, or I can sit here railing and flailing and arguing about how terrible the world is, and which one is going to make me feel better. And it's not rocket science, is it?
Yeah, it's interesting. The judgment piece is a big one. I got caught out the other day. I watched a video on YouTube, and it was the new Pope refused to shake Kate Middleton's hand. And I was like, what? Why? And I watched the entire 30-minute video trying to understand what happened. And afterwards, I felt duped, as did everybody in the comments section, primarily because the Pope and Kate Middleton haven't met. It was a completely AI-generated video, and the title was hooked and I found myself, and I was like, oh, there's like a judgment on Kate Middleton that's being projected on via this sort of, and it's hooked my judgment. And there's like these egregoric structures almost out there trying to hook, and it's almost like what you're describing is potentially some form of last hurrah. Like there is an exacerbation of structures that are trying to elicit judgment, harness judgment, evoke judgment. And it is like you described. It's quite yeah. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
They want to invoke fear as well, evoke judgment, evoke fear. And yeah, it's rising up. It's part of the AI. If a video had to say that this is AI, then we would know it's an AI video, but they don't have to say. And it's interesting because as a YouTuber myself, every time I upload a video, I have to tick a box to say that this is not generated by AI, right? That no part of this video is AI. And so I have to tick a box to say that. But it doesn't come up on the video that this is not AI. But equally, the videos that are created out of AI don't have to say this is an AI video. So it's for us to discern. Now, we can either find that really frustrating and distracting, and this is wrong, and something should be done, and there should be some rules about this, and they should create some laws to say, you know, and we'll often go into that space, won't we? You know, if every video had to have, like it does if you've got sponsorship, this video has paid promotion across the top, that if it came up with this video as AI, then you kind of are feeling into it and you're aware, but it doesn't have to say that. But actually, if we step back from it and say, how good is this as a lesson in discernment? All right, that we're moving into this, and we're already in it, but it's getting stronger. Of course, the whole AI time is kind of stronger and stronger and stronger. This is going to really help us to determine and decide, and it can be a detour and it can be a distraction. And so, yeah, it's very interesting what's happening, and it's triggering a lot of people. So what is it that is triggering inside you? It's like, I got duped, I got sucked into it, it was fake. And then there's the injustice. Poor Kate Middleton, why was she a target of this? That's not fair, that's not right. But it's triggering all sorts of stuff in us as a response. But each of these triggers is there to show us something so that we can release it.
Yeah, there's this interesting spiritual strength that I guess is being developed through the rising of the shadow and using the shadow as an opportunity to do the work. And if the quantum of shadow increases temporarily to rear its head, like you said, we're 2/3 of the way through, there's a real spiritual strength that's potentially being cultivated there, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it as developing your backbone, your spiritual backbone, and it's getting stronger. And it's also, they're showing me the backbone and the tailbone, yeah, which we used to have. And they're saying we use the tailbone now energetically. When we're grounding, we visualize the tailbone coming down and grounding. What was the point of that? Why are you telling me that, please? Okay, they're saying that the tailbone is part of the balance, all right, that it helps us balance. The tail in any animal helps them balance when they're moving forward. And so we used to have a tail, and so we energetically still have that, and it helps us balance. So as our backbone is getting stronger, that helps us to keep rebalancing ourselves within this new world of AI, within this new world of communication that is becoming stronger. It's not going to be much longer before we have much stronger telepathy. We already have it. That's how I do a reading, and I'm talking to somebody's soul and their inner being, and I can hear what they're saying, and I converse that to the person. That level of telepathy is going to become stronger for more people. How many times have you said, I knew you were going to say that? Yeah, it's like, yeah, you've already read the thoughts, yeah, and then they say, I knew you were going to say that, and we all have it, and we're developing it. So as AI is developing, our own internal AI is developing. Don't get left behind.
As you're feeling in at the moment, I'm sure there's an audience tuning in. Is there any particular message that you think is important for us to share with them at this particular moment in time?
We understand that you see your world in chaos right now and feel aggrieved and afraid because you seek peace and stability and balance. And that is a beautiful thing. But just trust that that which is not love is coming up to be reckoned with, to be balanced, to come into a conscious awareness of choice. You as a peoples are moving into a time of freedom that you've never experienced. You have thus far spent millennia after millennia in control. And now you are moving into freedom, and that includes the freedom of choice, the freedom to choose. Until this point, there was no choice. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. I can't choose. This is what I feel. Understanding that over the coming decades, that choice within you will become more and more apparent, not just on a global level, but on an energetic level. Who do I choose to be? What do I choose to be? What do I choose to feel? And being able to step into those choices is your power, your empowerment. I choose to witness what I witness. I am aware that I don't like what I witness, and I feel into that disliking of that. And then I align with allowing it to be what it is while sending love into the situation, and then stepping back and coming back into your own center, all of which you've always been able to do, but you've never had the power to do. You've never had the freedom to do. And so the biggest shift over the coming 5 decades is this more and more moving into what do I choose? And so many of you are already experiencing this on a practical level. What job do I choose? What relationship do I choose? What health do I choose? And you are taking your power back, and you are choosing the way that you want to go. This is also happening on a bigger level in terms of your countries and your continents and the energy within the planet itself. There are choices to be made, and they will continue to be available in a way that they have never been available. And this is something that AI is going to be able to help you with, that some of you perhaps have not considered. So what are my choices? What are my options? Ask AI. It'll show you some of them, and some of those will not be things you've thought about before. See any of these developments as simply tools. They are not there to take over your world. They are not the Triffids. They are not the enemy. They are there as tools. Just as machinery came in several hundred years ago to be a tool, and there was uproar and uprising at the time that these machines would take away the jobs of men. And now those tools, those machines, you rely on without hesitation. Electricity came in, it was feared, it's going to burn houses down, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and now you rely on it. AI will be the same. At the beginnings of this awakening of AI, the rise of AI, that it feels like your ancestors did at the beginning of electricity, at the beginning of machinery. But you in your time zone look back at that and say, well, what were they scared of? We're so good that we've got this stuff. We encourage you to see that AI is there for you as a tool for you, and not just the powers that be for you. Use it, utilize it, allow it, embrace it, and all is well.
Inspired souls, living beings, you're liking this video, so do remember to give it a thumbs up and a like. It really helps sharing the video around the internet, and join in on the conversation below. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What are you taking away from Julie's sharings today and Eli here today? What are your takeaways from today's podcast? And if you've got any questions of Julie that you'd like to get asked in the future, please leave them in the comments below as well. And I'd be honored to ask them on your behalf the next time she comes back on the podcast. Julie's also very active on YouTube as well. She might just be replying to your comments directly as well. So leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Join in on the conversation. Back to Julie in today's episode. Thank you for that. I couldn't help but reflect back on a conversation I had with a teacher, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. He's been on the podcast, and he runs Agape, a church in the US. And he shared the 4 levels of consciousness that we have. And level 1 is victimhood. Level 2 is kind of this achiever. Level 3 is we surrender, we go with the flow. And level 4 is unity consciousness. The word levels, sounds a bit hierarchical, but nonetheless. And it's interesting, I couldn't help but reflect that, like elevation of consciousness, like what I heard there was, level 1, the victimness, like the victimhood where we're sort of the choice, we've actually got choice. We're sort of popping through level 1 consciousness into level 2 consciousness at a larger scale. Really profound. One of the questions I had for you today was, you healed you've healed trauma that required surgery through energy work. And then you've dedicated, you mentioned, sorry, I got to stop. I don't mean to laugh when you said Ghostbuster. It just brings an image in my mind. So I shouldn't do that. But then also you've been healing others' trauma. Has that cost you anything personally over the years, Julie?
Has it cost me anything? It certainly cost me. Yes, it has. It cost me. Certain the surgery, the psychic surgery, the energy surgery to heal the issues within my womb, within my sensual and sexual areas, all of that healed and cleared, and my body reset and restored. That was beautiful. But in terms of the trauma that I was carrying until it was released, it cost me my peace for the best part of 30 years. It cost me several relationships because I was so full of trauma, I was constantly triggered. So I couldn't sustain relationships in a healthy way. And it damaged relationships with me and my children, which, I've had to work very hard to repair. And all of us would love to be, the perfect parent and the perfect partner and have, our shit together, basically. And I didn't for the first 40 years of my life. It was chaos. And that impacted. I had 3 children and I kept continually moving and getting in a relationship, breaking up and making friends and losing friends. And that chaos impacted me and my well-being, and it impacted my children and my home and my finances. It impacted multiple areas of my life for a very long time. And it's really only been in the last 7 years or so that I found, even though I healed 20 years ago, it's sort of there was so much chaos. It took a good decade for everything to come anywhere near into balance. And then another 5 years to just get to a place of stability. So if you imagine everything I tried to build was constantly crumbling because I was building it on sand. I was building it on a shaky foundation, a foundation of victimhood, of trauma, of drama, of chaos, of neediness, of fear, everything. I would work so hard and I would build something and it would collapse. And I'd work hard again and I'd build it and it would collapse. And it really only took me, it took me up until, I would say, 2014. So something like 15 years after I'd healed the trauma for me to get on a stable foundation. Then what I was building stayed and continued to grow. It didn't collapse and I have to start again. It really has only been in the last 6 years that I've seen that real stability. And so in a way you could say, well, that's not fair. It took you till nearly 60 years old, a life of chaos. But again, you see, we come back to what I was saying earlier about choices. There was always a choice, but when you're filled with trauma and you will respond from that place, it removes your choices. You can't see a different way. But eventually you kind of go, oh, I could actually release all the trauma and then I could have some choices. Then I could have a different way. So it has impacted. My daughter, who I love dearly, she went to, I think, 6 schools before she was 12 because I kept moving around because I was so chaotic. And she is, absolutely fixed for her own. She's got 2 children and her own home. I am never moving. I am never moving. My children are going to go to the same school right the way through, and they're going to have the same friends, and they're going to build a community because she was denied that. And so were my 2 sons. But they were, I don't know, they've settled in, but it hurt her. And, I have huge regret about that. But what would love say? Regrets are a waste of time. It is what it is. And, on a soul contract, you and your daughter signed up for this. So, don't beat yourself up. But, I have taken ownership of that. And I've also verbally apologized to her and taken full responsibility. And she has forgiven me and she has accepted. But it caused a lot of damage between us. There was quite a long time we were quite distant, and you have ruined my life, and I'm like, I know, but I'm sorry, and I can't say any more than that. So for us that go through these traumas, we accept we need to accept responsibility for the damage within us and the damage we have caused to others. I've broken a lot of hearts along the way of people I've known and met. And so, none of us are here to live a perfect life. We learn, we grow, we evolve. But through that, you see, through those experiences, I find it so, I suppose, easier than most to release judgment, to accept, to go with the flow, to allow, because I see past the surface and I see what's underneath it, and I understand, because in multiple cases I've been there. So that helps me to be somebody who can help others, because I think one of the most important qualities of any of us that are here to help inspire others in any way is this lack of judgment, this warmth, this awareness, this kindness. And we develop it through that awareness of self and the self-realization, and through our own struggles and turbulences and victories, and come out the other side and then be able to help others who are going through their own challenges, who have nobody that's been through anything similar, and they feel so isolated and so stuck. And then I can come along, or people like me can come along and show them kindness and compassion and understanding and acceptance. And that in itself is fuel to say, I can change this. Right? How can we fuel people into their best life, into their freedom, into their peace? What tools can we give them? Because we can't do it for them. We can only ever give people the tools, the information, and the love. Everything else they have to find within them from those ingredients that we've given them, but we can't do it for them. So equally, we take that message out to, we can't do it for the politics, we can't do it for the finances, we can't do it. We can give them information, we can give them love, we can give them empowerment, because without empowerment, you're in victim mode, and victims will say, I'm helpless, there's nothing I can do, this is terrible. And then we're in a bad space. And this is what we're rising out of, into this empowered choice, saying it is an understanding, and it's all right, and it's safe.
There's a few dynamics around forgiveness that I'd like to pull the thread on. So sometimes we're waiting for others to forgive us, and sometimes even others will forgive us, and yet we won't forgive ourselves. There's a few interesting little, when you start to peer in, because, there's a few things there. The latter of the two, I think, because most of the people tuning into this podcast are of a spiritual nature, I do see people beating themselves up quite a bit and not letting go of things. Any advice for those people that may have been forgiven, or the situation's long past, but they're finding it difficult to forgive themselves?
Yeah. With the self, forgiving the self is often the hardest. So it's going a little deeper and saying, right, what's this really about? It's about judgment. I've judged myself as being bad or doing harm. And what is judgment? When I recognize my flaws and I beat myself up that I shouldn't have done that. Well, I did do it, and I am not Doctor Who and a TARDIS that can go back to the past and do it differently. All I can do is acknowledge it and recognize it, and then take full responsibility for it. Now, responsibility and blame are not the same. Take full responsibility. So let's step back a minute and say, right, was I to blame that I moved my children around so much? It was nobody else's fault. It was certainly me, but was I to blame for it? Yeah, I was a runner. So if something wasn't working out, I would move because it all fresh start. And if that didn't work out, I'd move again. And it took me, and I was young, we're talking 16 to 30 type thing. Okay. And that was, I look back and I kind of understand. And when I went to university and did psychology, I understood it a bit more. And it's this, avoidance personality because of the trauma I've been in. If I see trauma, I avoid, I run. And so I would take my children with me to a safer place kind of thing. And so was I to blame? No, It was a cause. What was the cause? The cause was the underlying trauma or drama or lack of support or lack of awareness. Okay, we can understand it if we choose to. We don't have to. It's actually not important. It's to say, I did what I did. I can't change it. If I could do it differently now with the tools and the knowledge I have now, then I would. But I didn't have those tools and that knowledge then. So can I say to myself, that wasn't the wisest decision in the world. It caused a lot of chaos and harm. I can't change it, and I wouldn't do that again. And if I recognize that it's harmed others, I will take responsibility and own it and apologize and tell them, I recognize that what I did harmed you and I'm so, so sorry. And I ask for your forgiveness. And then I let go. All right? You're not responsible for the outcome. You don't need to wait for their forgiveness to forgive you, right? That's separate. It's completely separate. So many people do. Once they forgive me, then I can forgive myself. No, let go. They may never forgive you. And you can't do anything about that. All you can do, your bit, your responsibility is to own it and say sorry and let go, okay? That's separate. They might forgive you, they might not. Your bit is to now say, can I forgive myself? So the way that I see it, and the way I've done this with other people, is I want you to imagine that younger you at that age that made that mistake. And I want you to imagine them stood in front of you. And rather than screaming at them and shouting at them and putting them down and telling them how bad they are, I want you to say to them, why did you do that? Isn't that what we do with children when they mess up? Yeah? Why were you unkind to that boy, my lovely? And he was mean to me, right? Why do you think he was mean to you? You know, and we will have that conversation with the child. What are we trying to do with that conversation with the child when the child's been horrible, right? We're trying to help them understand what their behavior was, how it impacted on others. And then what do? We forgive them, all right? So we say, okay, that we might punish them. You're grounded for a week, all right? You've got to take some responsibility. You've got to have some consequences, because consequences help you to realize the impact of that behavior and not do it again. And then we forgive, all right? So we want to take that same kind of behavior towards ourselves. So how old was I at that time? You know, I made this terrible decision when I was 24. Okay, who was that 24-year-old me? You know, let's imagine that you stood in front of you and what that you was holding and what tools they had available and what wisdom. I mean, at 24, you haven't even finished developing your frontal cortex. You know, it's like, can we just say, and even if you're more of a grown-up and you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, it's like, were you going through some adverse effect at the time? Were you going through some trauma? Were you really vulnerable? Were you in a really good space to make a really profound, wise decision? Or was there a little bit of chaos going on at the time, and so the decision you made was not the best? Can we just be okay with, I did the best I could at the time with the tools that I had? And when I can say that, because I tell you what, that's what you'd say to your best friend. Why can't you say it to yourself? You know? So allow yourself to be your own best friend. Forgive. And then realize there's nothing to forgive. It couldn't have been any other way based on the circumstances at the time. Yeah? So we reach towards forgiveness, and then we reach through it to the other side and realize there's nothing to forgive. It simply is what it is. All right?
Have you experienced any forgiveness miracles?
I don't know. Let me ask my memory isn't fabulous, I have to be honest. Have I experienced any forgiveness miracles? Are they miracles? Yes, they can be. Well, miracles is perception, is what my higher self is saying. I had a conversation with my eldest son when he was about 27. Took full responsibility. I had him when I was 17. I was a child, you know. I made a mess of it. I really did. I sat him down when he was 27 and I took full responsibility for every mistake I'd ever made with him. And I asked for his forgiveness and he gave it. And until then, we'd been quite distant, and for about 10 years. and 17 to 27 kind of a little distant. And then after that, we got quite close. And he was able to completely honour my truth and my apology. But it was really when he became a father himself, his daughter's nearly 8 now, that he said within the first year, like, I don't know how you did this and did it on your own at 17, because we are in our mid-30s and there's 2 of us and we're really struggling with a baby, and I just don't know how you did this on your own. And I really get why it was so messy. And I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. So that was lovely, you know. But yeah, other than that, no, I don't think I've had any other witness miracles as such. But that was a lovely thing that happened.
I don't mean to make light of the situation, but my mother-in-law has a magnet on her fridge which says, by the time the daughter knows her mother was right, she has a daughter herself who thinks she's wrong. And every time I walk past and grab milk from their fridge, I'm looking at this magnet, having a little cosmic giggle to myself. The reason I asked is because there's some meditations that I've recorded on Insight Timer, and one of them's on forgiveness. And I remember running myself. There was a period there where I was consistently just guiding myself through forgiveness, because it just seemed to be the body of work at the time. And I remember there was this moment where something truly shifted, touch wood. And I came out of the meditation and I had like 6 missed calls. And these were from people that, like, you know, were like super high vibe for me at the time. Like, they don't call me, you know. I was like, what? Like, this person called me? Like all my self-worth stuff came up. And the actual person that I had something happen with had called and left a voice memo and was just like, it was very like energy neutralizing, you know. It was like, hey, just called to sort of see how you were going, this, that, and the other. And I was like, I think I just experienced a bit of a miracle. Like, this is really trippy what's happening. So I think it does create ripples in the energetic field. My last question for you today, Julie, thank you so much. You're always so gracious when you're here, is you've been through a lot and seen a lot. And then, you know, your spirituality's, you know, yeah. And one of the questions I had was, what's one of the, it's a tough question to ask, but what's one of the most dangerous spiritual teachings you see that people are following right now? Is there something we should be aware of?
Okay. Let me ask about this. Is there anything I'm aware of that I feel is dangerous? Just generally, in general, it's any teachings that are fear-based, okay? Anything that is raising fear in the name of light is always something to be very cautious of. So when I see anybody that is a psychic or is intuitive or something like that, and they are saying, you know, doom and gloom is coming and, you know, danger, 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 I'm like, you're not coming from the light at all, and you are instigating a huge amount of fear, and that's not helpful at all. So I would just caution, when you're listening to anything or anyone, there are many people that will say they're coming from the light. There's many books that are written in a way that appears to be coming from a place of light. Just ask yourself and ask your heart, does it resonate, and does it create a sense of upliftment and excitement and curiosity, or does it create fear and doubt and withdrawal and shrinking? Any teaching from the light is there to help you grow. It's helped expand your light, expand your confidence, your empowerment, your choices. Anything that's helping you to grow is coming from the light. Anything that's shrinking you is not. So dismiss it, because Yeah, they're just giving me examples that I haven't seen them, but my team are just saying there are many videos out there about the light and the dark rising and doing battle and us going into galactic battle with, and they're saying this is just, that's coming from the dark to keep the fear high so that the light can't infiltrate. Don't pay it any energy. What you put attention into grows. Where your energy goes, it flows. It's just saying, I'm not giving it my energy. I don't engage. I don't engage. So that's all. Just really just feel into it. I have questions sometimes on my comments and my videos about, is it right what so-and-so said about everything's collapsing right now? And it was a very negative comment. And I had to sort of reassure that, anything that's falling away is falling away because it was broken, damaged, or hostile, or it didn't need to be there anymore. Don't fear it. Embrace it. See it as, they're giving me examples to share with you. See it as cells in the body that are dead, dying, decayed, or cancerous, falling away. And you wouldn't fear that. You'd be like, yay, get rid of them. We don't need them. It's time for them to go. So be cautious of what you're watching. And also be cautious of the bias that is very heavily present and has been for a long time, because that too will be collapsing. So really start sifting through the wheat from the chaff. Discernment, choices.
Do you think as we evolve, sorry, I know I said last question, some question, sorry. Do you think as we evolve our, the amygdala, like kind of how it's wired for negativity over positivity, that's potentially one of the changes that might actually happen for us?
I'm getting a no. It's not really about that. Okay, so I just get some more information. The polarities have always been there. There will always be negative and positive. It has to balance, like a battery, it has to balance. So it's always been there, it always will be there. But it's really about the positivity rising. And as the positivity rises, to a certain extent, the negativity rises in order to keep the balance. But as we evolve higher, we don't need that side of it. Okay, so, all right, they're giving me an example. At the moment, your batteries, generally, your AA batteries that go into your devices, have to have a positive and a negative charge to work. Imagine that it evolves, and it's probably already there, that new batteries don't need the positive and the negative. They just need the positive. Okay, and so as it evolves, we're making new batteries. We don't need the negative charge. We can just do it in the positive charge. And they're talking about lithium batteries and things like that. They're all going to be evolving and changing, and we won't need the negative charge. So right now, because it's 3D, grounded, we need the negative charge with the positive to keep it grounded. But as we raise into 5D, we don't need that grounding level that we had before. So just allow that to dissolve in its own time, in its own way, and as we shift, everything's shifting forward. But look out for these, not in a negative way, look out for them in an excited way, these new developments that are coming in from technology and AI that, we change the way we're making our computer chips and our batteries and our this and our that. It's getting purer. Okay, so we don't need the grounded earth, fear-based negativity to keep everything solid anymore. It's okay. All right.
Julie Poole. Thank you so much for sharing yourself here so abundantly with us today. Once again, I will put links to all of your books, your YouTube channel, and your previous appearances here in the description below. Your books are actually making their way around the world and helping a lot of people as well. We didn't really get a chance to talk much about them, but I will put a link to them in the description below. And for those that have tuned into your other episodes, they know just how much you've gone through to be here, with us today, and just the graciousness with which you carry yourself. Ultimately, your presence speaks volumes, and I'm just really, really grateful every time we get to do this. So thank you for your time and energy, but also thank you for you. Just really, really grateful. Thank you, Julie.
Bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you. and your beautiful watchers. Thank you for having me. Have an amazing day.
Yo, inspired souls, lumen beings, you made it through to the end of another incredible episode. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. You've obviously watched the video all the way through to the end, so please do remember to give it a thumbs up and a like. It really helps share content like this around. And to all of you that are subscribed to the podcast, thank you so much for your incredible love and support. At the time of this recording, 60% of you that watch the channel regularly actually aren't subscribed. And when I've brought this up with a couple of my friends and a couple of the community, some of the people in the circle, they didn't even realize that they weren't subscribed. So please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please do hit that button, hit that bell notification icon. It helps everything around here, championing love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet together. You're basically voting for more content like this online through your subscription, and it really helps power the movement. Thank you so much for doing so. On screen now, the original conversation we had with Julie Poole, where she really goes into her past experience, where she transcended into the angelic realms when she was in a coma, and everything that happened to her and her life before and after. It's a really incredible share. If you want to find out more about that, I highly recommend that. Also an episode here with Pam Gregory giving us an update on where we're headed for 2025. She's an incredible astrologer. And also a video here, YouTube's recommending that to you as the best video that you might enjoy watching here on the channel. So go on, take your pick and make your click. I'll see you in the next one. See you there.